Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to season 5 and number 882 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100%. Can't turn my fingers that way. Let's try that way. There we go. Canadian. Today, recording day is Friday, April 10th, 2026. And it is a slightly gray day here at the Beaver Lodge. It's raining just a little bit here, but then again, it's April. So what would you expect? Spring showers bring May flowers, as they say. On our front lawn, the snowbells and the crocus are still very, very, very happy. Which it's nice to have a splash of color. And even though we've been getting some intermittent snow covering them all up, they have been surviving and thriving nonetheless. As the snow has been melting, fortunately, it's not been staying long. But there was one that stayed on the ground for more than 24 hours. So I was wondering, okay, are they going to handle that? And they handled it. They handled it like champions. So very, very happy to see a spring coming back. As I mentioned, 1 week left of curling, and then hopefully the tennis season will start. This is the first year since I've started playing, actually, that the tennis season and the curling season did not overlap in the spring, because usually around playoff time I have to choose, and this year it has not been the case because winter's hung around a little longer this year, although it started much later, so yeah. But yeah, a little bit of a rainy day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Kids and cubs, how is your mental health doing today? I'm struggling a little bit in that, and it's the reason for me having started late despite having been up on time to start the show at the regular time. I am experiencing pain today. Long story short, I was a dancer. Suffered an injury to my knee, had a surgery, and one day after my surgery, about, I don't know, my God, must have been 5 or 6 months afterward, when I was walking again, because I actually had to learn to walk all over again at 26, 25 or something like that. And I went rollerblading, and the muscles that you need to stop by putting your heel down, those tiny little muscles. Even though I was, walking without any assistance and all that kind of stuff, and going up and down stairs, no problem. Those little muscles had not actually fully come back yet, and I was getting ready to go downhill, and I could not break, and it was rush hour, and I was going down a rather steep hill. Well, I was about to go down a rather steep hill right into rush hour traffic into one of the busiest intersections in Ottawa, and there was one lamp post. And that's all there was between me and a long flip down and me deciding to just throw myself on concrete, which I know was going to be an extremely painful experience. So I stuck my arm out and I wrapped myself around the lamp post. At the time, I bounced off the grass, didn't feel anything, felt fine. But several years later, while I was riding my bike and trying to do a shoulder check, I couldn't do one. And I had to turn from the waist rather than to my shoulder to look back. And it got to a point that I couldn't turn from the waist enough to not throw the handlebars off that way. So I couldn't do a shoulder check. So that was not good. So I went to look into that, and we are trying to get me out of that now. So basically, I just pulled all my muscles out of complete alignment on that day, and since I didn't feel any pain until or any restrictions until several years later, um, it's taking several years to get out of it. So every now and then along the process, when they say sometimes the cure is worse than the thing, I go through some moments like that. And this morning, I couldn't turn my neck this way further than here. And there was no position that I could be in for more than about 2 minutes. That wasn't causing me a lot of pain because where the blockage is pulling on a whole bunch of little muscles that normally don't get solicited, so they can't take it for very long. I've been doing some stretching all morning to try and work out the blockage. And I think I have done enough to be able to sustain at least a short show, and we'll see how it goes after that. Uh, um, if you notice that I am fidgetier than usual, or if you've ever noticed that I've been fidgety, that's why, because I am just uncomfortable. But normally it's just discomfort and tightness and that type of stuff. But today it was actual pain, like on the ground pain. So, yeah, feeling better now. Hopefully, we will stay in this mode for the duration of the show. But that is what happened this morning. So when I put out the message that there was something health I needed to tend to, just didn't want anybody to panic. I wasn't having a terrible crisis, and was not sick or anything. It was just a lot of pain. All right. Yeah, mental health doing not as good as it could be today, but better now than it was an hour and a half ago. Significantly better now than it was an hour and a half ago. And I hope that you are doing well too, and that you have a lovely weekend upcoming. For us here at the household, of course, because my Beaver sweetie is Orthodox. It is Orthodox Easter this weekend, so we will be going away to visit some family to celebrate that. And given that I didn't get to go last weekend for a regular Easter, it's going to be a nice opportunity to see everyone, because I don't think. Well, yeah, I'm trying to think. Have I seen them since I got back from Mexico? Except like from like the day after I got back from Mexico. I think I may not have. So yeah, I miss them. So I'm very much looking forward to that. All right, kids and cubs. I hope that wasn't for me, Kid Saucy. Did you just need a good fart? If that is for me, that's a good one. Thank you. All right. I love fart jokes. Okay. Um, Yesterday, we talked about Marilyn Gladu, the unlikeliest of CPC MPs crossing the bridge, or at least the seemingly unlikeliest of CPC MPs crossing the aisle or the bridge or whatever to the Liberals in order to come into the fold, giving the Liberals 171 seats, bringing them one seat away from a technical majority, two away from a working majority, as we have three by-elections coming up on April the 13th in less than a week. And shameless plug, join us on Monday night for a live by-election results show. Well, why not, right? We're political junkies, and I happen to be available, and I'm not washing my hair that night. So I got plenty of time to spend with you. So I hope you'll join me. Maybe we'll get Mr. Grizzly on for a little bit if he isn't too tired by the time that's from his day at work. By the time that starts, maybe he'll pop in for a little bit at the beginning. And who knows, maybe I'll be able to get a guest or two. But we can watch those results come in, see. It'll be a historic moment because, well, I mean, first of all, I'm guessing I don't think I would have to do much research here to think that this might be the first time in the history of Canada that government goes from majority to minority or minority to majority through a by election mid mandate. So that should be interesting. I'm not sure if it's the first in the Commonwealth. Would be interesting if somebody was crunching those numbers. But it would certainly be, again, it is definitely history in the making. So why not be there to cover it live? And hopefully you will join us. But yeah, we have that happening on the 13th. And currently, of course, we have the Liberal Convention going on in Montreal. And interestingly enough, while I said yesterday on the show, because Parliament wasn't sitting, there was no images of Marilyn Gladu being brought into the room on Wednesday for a caucus meeting and everybody cheering as she's entering the room. Um, there's a whole damn convention. So yesterday I was watching day one of the convention on CPAC, and well, you'll never guess who. They had Evan Solomon come out to introduce someone. And if you remember in the clip that I showed you yesterday on CPAC, from CPAC, where Marilyn Gladu, I believe, was in the Prime Minister's office and she spoke for a couple of seconds about why it is she was joining the party, something about needing serious leadership and global leadership. In one, she didn't say it outright, but one could infer that she was um, not getting satisfaction where she was, and hence that is why she was crossing over. Um, but yeah, um, he was in the room. Apparently, it was through conversations with him that she came to come to decide to cross over to the party. So he was introducing someone at the Liberal convention in Montreal, and he introduced her. So they didn't bring her into the caucus room; they just brought her right up onto the stage and gave her the mic. Because why not, right? Uh, so hopefully, we might have that moment for you today to take a look at. But yeah, she just went up. She didn't say, I think she spoke a little longer than she did in the room, the clip that I showed you already. There was a lot of stuff, obviously, that was common in what she said. But yeah, they just put it right up there. And while I was listening to some commentary yesterday, somebody made a very good point. I wish could remember off the top of my head who it was, but they were a lot of the questions yesterday, right? Yesterday was like, "Oh my God, doesn't anybody have any principles anymore?" Marilyn Gladu, you floor crossed, you betrayed the people who voted for you. Oh my word. Right? The camp that want you to believe that we vote for parties, not for people. And I understand that a lot of people vote for the party. Parties are very convenient. They're a convenient way of organizing people, ideas. It makes a nice little shortcut. If you're conservative, you believe in fiscal prudence and you believe in law and order and the solidity of institutions and all that kind of stuff, or at least, that's what it used to mean. Uh, kind of straight from that. But they're still running on the fumes of that brand. Liberals. You have a peace, order, and good governance, and multiculturalism, official bilingualism, inclusivity, all that kind of stuff. The Charter of Rights was brought in under a liberal government, so the party of that. So you have all that vibe, right? Um, so yeah, how do you put it? Um, so we're in this moment right now where we're trying with external to all of this because of the Trump thing, what's going on in the United States, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in Gaza, uh, what's going on in Iran, and how those shocks affect us, right? If we're facing reality as it is, right, there are things that we know we have to do and we just have to get on with it, right? So, and there's a lot of Canadians that understand that because we're pretty pragmatic people, right? And, again, the radical center, right? And it's not that we're not hardworking. It's not that we're not industrious. It's not that we're not creative, right? Just we know what we need to do. We need a plan. We need to be all in on the plan, and then it's, almost like, we're all behind a car in the winter, that's got stuck and we're all just all together and we're giving it a push and helping it out, right? It's just what we do. We're hardwired that way. So he's speaking to that. Mark Carney's speaking to that. The Liberal Party is speaking to that. But the Conservatives seem to be speaking to something else still. And even while they are still trying to make that shift to speak to that, they don't seem to be all in, right? And they don't seem to have the leader that can bring them there, as evidenced by the fact that he has lost 4 MPs in a short amount of time. So, um, yeah, they just brought her right up on stage, and this commentator was looking at that. And remember yesterday when I was talking about the whole spectrum of people, right? He has men, he has women, he has them from Atlantic Canada, Chris Dantamont's Acadian, he had Michael Ma, he's Chinese Canadian. You have Matt Generu from Alberta, yes, Edmonton, the sort of progressive hotbed, in the province, but still, and if you're looking at the polls, 338, it's showing that the Liberals, I think, would pick up 8 seats in Alberta now, if I'm not mistaken. If there were an election today, and they hold 2 at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. So, uh, quadrupling your toll in Alberta, uh, that's not bad. When you consider that you didn't have any real presence there before. Um, Take a look at it. Yeah, it says right here, Alberta 8, Saskatchewan 4. They only got 1 in Saskatchewan at the moment, as I believe as well. Um, so a dent out there, right? Um, then We have Lori Idlout from Nunavut. So we have, Indigenous, and again, another woman. And now we have Marilyn Gladu, woman, also from Ontario, but known to be a very social conservative. And if you add that in the underlayer, can't forget, but Dolly Begum in the by-election right now in Scarborough Southwest, the Liberal candidate was the deputy leader of the Ontario New Democrats with a seat in Queen's Park, holding that job when she left that one to come and run. Right? But we have Marilyn Gladu, seemingly a social conservative, come along and join the Liberals. So the whole broad spectrum, right? And you have is a lot of people too difficult for a lot of people to wrap their head around. They're basically asking, is okay, I understand the Liberals are a big tent party, but is it possible to be too big tent? Right? Is there anyone the Liberals won't accept? Right? Pretty much. Doesn't anybody have any principles anymore? And then Marilyn Gladu, oh my God, you've been a conservative, like this, you went 4 elections as a conservative. You won your riding with 53%. Even had Pierre Poilièvre suggesting a little bit that, she won with such a margin under his leadership, um, as he was buffing again the shiniest silver medal in the political history, talking about his 8.1 million votes. She won 3 times before without you, darling. Okay, she never crossed the 50%, but like she got to 46 and 49. you 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 didn't make the difference in her race, Boo Boo Kitty. Okay, let's make that clear. Um, but again, turning around and saying, does she have any principles? Ah, and people wondering, like, why the hell would the Liberals accept someone like her? Talked yesterday, she comes with some baggage. Allegedly, pro-conversion therapy because she voted against the banning conversion therapy bill. Apparently, uh, there was more to the story than that. Turns out, in another comment yesterday, she said something that seems to be, if I'm putting all the pieces together, is that there was um, like the case, I think it is for Bill C9 that just passed, something about religious expression, and she voted against it because that was there. But if in the comment she mentioned something that I had forgotten, I remember, because and it's true, when she mentioned it, it jogged my memory. There was no final vote on that bill. Right? That vote where she voted against the bill was either at a first or at a second reading or something like that, but wasn't at a third reading because that one passed on a voice vote with unanimous consent by the House. Right? Aaron O'Toole was the leader at the time. He made sure that Garnet Genuis, the guy that was most visibly pro conversion therapy, was out of the country, organized to have the vote held very quickly. And then at one point, when it came time to vote on it, finally, rather than having a third reading vote where everybody stands up and is counted and whatnot, they just, said, do you vote for this to pass, whatnot? And everybody said yes or something. There was no no's, and it just passed. So there's actually no recorded vote. I guess that might have been the compromise for the Conservatives, who might have, because Garnet Genuis might not have been the only one. But under Aaron O'Toole's leadership, just wanted to avoid that whole controversy. And it's sort of like, okay, well, for those of you who would still consider this as being something to do, you know, how about we get you to just vote unanimous that this passes, and therefore, when somebody goes into the record, they won't see your name and saying you voted yes, right? Um, that might have been the political compromise there on the conservative side to agree to that. But yeah, um, it passed on a voice vote. So, um, and she says, when it passed on a voice vote, I was in the house because on a voice vote, if like if even one person objects, right, I think they have to go to a different type of vote. Because it means it's not unanimous consent. So then I think they have to record the ayes and the nays at that point. Uh, she didn't speak up. She didn't stop the vote. She didn't block the vote. So she said ultimately I supported it. She said that thing that I voted against it for first was removed, I guess, or was dealt with in a process, and she felt okay when it came time on the unanimous voice vote to vote for it, and that she never actually stood for conversion therapy. She was standing for some type of freedom of expression thing, which may make a lot of people go, "Oh, okay, that's all right." Now, of course, me being the person that picks on the little detail, will still say yes. But when push came to shove and came time to vote, and you had to choose about which was the thing that was more important, having children being tortured, not being tortured by banning the conversion therapy, yes, or a perceived freedom of expression issue with regard to freedom of religion. Uh, you picked expression over kids not being tortured. And perceived affront to some freedom of expression against not only foreseeable, but inevitably foreseeable reality that kids will be tortured. So, again, glad you ultimately voted for it. Can't give you the full cookie, though. you know, you didn't put not children not being tortured above whatever other principle you were fighting for at one point during this process, and you put your name to it with a recorded vote. I that's with me. That's not cool. Let's put it that way. But yes, um, um, it seems that issue is not so much an issue, right? Most people won't do that type of deep dive as I did there. Uh, that will be enough. Oh, okay, it was just she was fighting for freedom of expression, and well, then when that was taken away, then she didn't see any reason for which uh, children should be subjected to that type of torture, and she didn't stop that vote. Um, but it seems you know, because she's had some interesting views on abortion, apparently in the past, and other things like that. Um, she's come to the party and uh, on the prime minister's side, being asked if he has any principles or if the party has any principles. Will the party just take anyone? Um, handled it really well. There's in the press conference that he had after that, when he was being asked immediately about it in English and French, there was about a 12-minute portion of the question and answer period after what he was there to announce that was specifically about this Gladu and the problems that she brought, and how she was so social conservative, and what does that say about your party, what does that say about her, all that kind of stuff. Separately, you had Avi Lewis doing some interviews, and running, grabbing give the guy credit, man. He grabbed the football and he ran with it, right? The very obvious question. That's what I would have recommended too if I was doing comms for the NDP side. The whole sort of like, my God, if they let her in, is, what does the Liberal Party even stand for anymore? Come to me, my little NDP children, those who have strayed. Come back home, right? I absolutely, yeah, I would absolutely be advising that. Uh, uh, the cheeky side of me would be advising doing it like with a witch's cackle at the end, but that probably wouldn't sell politically. Come to me, my little NDP children. They'll let anybody into that party. We have cookies. Come to the orange side. Oh my God. So yeah, there's but like, give Abby Lewis credit, man. This guy is going to get some easy press for maybe about a week or two while he has the novelty of being NDP leader. So he's got to make the most of that, and he's got to make himself someone who's compelling enough that the press will want to go back and see him again and again and get his opinion and get his take. They will want his take on something, right? Because when you're the leader of the fourth party and you don't have official party status, when you have things to say, you don't necessarily have everybody coming running because you don't command the attention you used to when you were the leader of either the opposition or the third party, and had party status and were a balance of power, right? That kind of stuff matters. But Mr. Lewis is a compelling enough figure on his own and has enough name recognition on his own coming into this to command some media attention. Uh, However, media attention, that type of thing, it is currency and it needs to be spent wisely. And so far, he is doing that. He picked that ball, and listen. It seems that when he's seeing an opportunity, he's taking it and he's doing the best he can. As he's making what he can of it, and I can't fault the man for that. He's got a job to do on his own. If he is if he bears the same qualities as Mark Carney in terms of being intelligent and having planning abilities and being able to be strategic and being able to stick to a plan, being able to compromise, being able to show some humility, being able to be self-deprecating from time to time, speak to people like they're intelligent, uh, which seems to be a mood that people are in for. He can. He can do a lot of good for himself. So I'm not too worried about him. And this type of issue, again, it sort of hands him a football. And I think the liberals were aware of it by how totally and completely they had communications done yesterday evening and yesterday during the day in order to have that. But during that question and answer period with Mark Carney, during that 12 minutes where he was being really peppered with this stuff, Mark Carney did something that was really, really brilliant. In that, when everybody was asking, like this, gee, liberals, what are you doing accepting someone like her? Are you lowering your standards? What are people, are you fear you're going to lose people on the left by letting just anybody in? Do you stand for anything anymore other than winning and all that kind of stuff? And Mark Carney said, no, 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 sort of, and he rejects that frame. He doesn't say I reject the framing, but he says, he says it in French first, right? He says you have it backwards, and here's the thing too, when you're talking, you want to know if somebody's French is improving, right? It's certain things that they do. And he said, tu l'as à l'envers. À l'envers is backwards. And he said, c'est du verlan. In French, verlan is envers backwards. And when you say that someone is speaking verlan, in verlan, you're saying that they're getting things backwards, right? He was able to make that joke and even got a little couple of laughs. So he's gone from starting this over a year ago, having known some French because he picked it up when he was, working in Europe, but didn't need it as much the last few years. So it was a little rusty, to now making actually clever jokes using puns in the second language. So, as again, someone who notes the quality of French people, that is a very clear progression. This is somebody who's definitely been working at it. So that's going to score him. That moment there, I was just saying, Verlan may have scored him some cultural points in Quebec in the Terrebonne by-election just by doing that in that press conference. Um, but he tells the reporter, no, they got it backwards. It's not about us lowering our standards to let people in. It's about those who knock on our door saying that they want to come in, right? Saying, okay, we're happy to consider that, but these are our standards. Are you prepared to meet them? And if they say yes, they are welcome. So, in other words, to the, oh my God, does anybody have any principles anymore? Say, yes. And we ask them about our principles before we let them in. If they live with, if they come through that door, it's because they have agreed to live by our principles. Boom. It's brilliant. My house, my rules, right? Everybody understands that. When you knock on somebody's house and you're not even saying, "Can I stay for the night?" but pretty much, "Can I move in?" Um, you ask about the rules. What's the lay of the land around here? Or the person that's about to let you in says, "Okay, but um, I've been to your house. I see how you live. That shit's not gonna fly here." We need to be clear on that. Are we crystal? Because there are some expectations here, right? Um, so that conversation, according to the prime minister, had taken place. And then we got that news earlier in the day. And then we got confirmation from her that that was indeed the case. And then she was on stage at the Liberal Party convention, and then she did a scrum either after having been on stage or before. Not sure when in time it happened. And then she was asked specifically about it, and that's when she gave the detailed answer about her vote specifically on conversion therapy. So uh, and she's and very clear, if there comes a vote on someone's right to choose on abortion, or someone's right to be whoever they are, living their authentic self. So I'm guessing that has to do with trans issues and same-sex marriage and all that kind of stuff. She is not going to be interfering with that. She's joining a party, the leader of which she knows has a non-binary child. So if she has issues with that, she knows the leader of the party is going to have issues with her. So, I mean, this is not. This is you don't have to wonder what the prime minister's stance on that is, right? So when she signs on the dotted line, she knows what she's getting into and she knows what she's agreeing to. So again, whether it is that it's not that she doesn't believe in protecting people from conversion therapy, and that it's not that she doesn't believe in same-sex rights, or it's not that she doesn't believe in whatever it is. uh, there's just always a little but that's what she was voting for, like in the case of the conversion therapy thing, then maybe that's the social. She's not as much of a social conservative as she has been alleged to be. Number one, that's a possibility. Uh, Again, as I mentioned yesterday, could simply be as well 10 years in Parliament, 4 elections won, looking at a longer future uh, in opposition. Definitely wants to contribute something, particularly in her electoral district, which is particularly hard hit, Sarnia, with what's going on with the United States, and has a reputation for being a good constituency MP, regardless of some views that could be considered questionable. The convoy support is hard to explain, however, and the anti-vax stuff. But um, deciding right now if she is indeed a good constituency MP and looking at all the variables at the moment that if she wants to do some serious work and not just oppose and not grandstand and pose for the cameras for the next 3.5 years and maybe longer if this government does a good job and Canadians decide to, if they're considering it the first mandate of a new government rather than the fourth mandate of a Trudeau government, give him a second mandate of his own. Uh, that's a long time to be going nowhere, not having any direct say. If she is chemical engineer, she definitely has some capacity for analysis and complex thought. She can do math. You know, just like on that vote where she decided that, and again, perhaps factoring in the context, feeling pretty sure that she was going to be in government relatively soon, you know, voting to block a ban on conversion therapy because of alleged freedom of religion / expression issues. Well, this time, uh, you know, maybe I'm not as pro-choice as I'm now claiming to be, or maybe I'm not as, uh, okay with banning conversion therapy as I need one to be. But I got other stuff that I want to accomplish, and now I'm deciding that that's more important than those objections. People's priorities change over time, right? Um, Whatever the reason, she's on the liberal side now. And Mark Carney has made it clear that if you're on the liberal side now, we haven't changed. We haven't lowered our standards to let you in. You have agreed to modify your standards so that we can let you in the door. So that you would be let in the door. Because this is where you want to be. You want to live here for the next 3 years of your career. And you are prepared to not put your feet on the table while watching TV, because we don't do that here. And you've decided you're good with that. Right? It's it seems to me that might be all that's going on here. So she, like I said, that convoy stuff, I don't know how she cleans that up. I supported the convoy. Uh, um, but there's a couple of things on the social conservative side that can be more easily cleaned up. So maybe the mess she comes with isn't as large as it was with the COVID stuff. However, the convoy stuff, given that the federal government is, I think, challenging the most recent court decision on the validity of the use of the Emergencies Act. I think they're going all the way to the Supreme Court with that. There's probably going to be coming a time where the case actually gets to court, where again the awkwardness of having someone who was in that photo with Candice Bergen and the two truckers uh, dining during the convoy is now sitting with the party that is arguing at the Supreme Court that the invocation of the Emergencies Act to break up the protest that she was in that photo supporting at the time. Yeah, uh, that might be a little bit awkward. That would that could resurface at that moment to create a 1 or 2 day ball time release grenade that lands back in the liberal camp that they'll have to handle with a little dexterity. At some point, she's gonna have to speak to that photo. It's a situation is gonna come up where she's going to have a good reason why she was there and why now she might believe that wasn't the best idea. Just saying. Um, so yeah, you have all this stuff going on, kids and cubs, as the news on the other side of the political spectrum does not seem to be absolutely fantastic in conservative land. Um, we mentioned yesterday how it was the case that the leader of the opposition lost his director of communications, Katie Field. Again, uh, not necessarily something um, that one could run with and say is a leadership issue or, she had problems with the boss or something like that issue, given that she had, you know, come in for about a year at a moment of a big transition. Uh, she's sort of got him to consider going to other media, back to CBC and other types of stuff. And but there's a lot of work to do because he also lost his seat and then had to gain it again, and then go through a leadership review because he lost the election. Um, so the work was, if she was brought in to replace the other person who had to go relatively soon and quickly because that wasn't working out, and dropped everything to take it, and the year ends up being a lot more involved than it should be for this period. It's not just a transition from election to post-election, but again, a by-election and then a leadership review at the same time. That's it's reasonable for one to want to tap out at that point. Um, But when the floor crossing happens 24 hours after you lose your director of communications, and the floor crossing is put in the light of we need a serious and global leader, um, it casts a shadow on the casts a light or a hue on the resignation of the director of communications, and it makes one wonder. It's like, well, did she really go because she had some products she wanted to get back to, uh, uh, because she had a plan and she agreed to put it on hold, or did she really want to go because she had other projects she wanted to get to? If you know what I mean. Like she really wanted to get to other projects really bad. Um, Again, don't know. There's oh, I should check that out. Apparently, there's a new, I think a comedian. Her name is Claire Blackwood, and she has a character that she does of Pierre Poilièvre's personal assistant, and She's absolutely um, fabulous in there, in those things. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at it seems there's some breaking news. Um, I happened to go to my YouTube page to look for Claire Underwood. It was on Marilyn Gladu's, and 1 hour ago, she posted, "I'm devastated to hear the news coming out of Lambton College. Thank you to all of the first responders for your quick and courageous response. My thoughts and prayers are with everyone affected." And it's the Sarnia Observer. It's just a image here. I would have to go to the article. It said, "One man dead in early morning shooting at Lambton College," according to Sarnia police. Oh no. That is not good. We'll just go take a look at that. See what we have here. From CBC 3 hours ago. No. 20-year-old Sarnia man is dead after shots were fired at Lambton campus bar in the southwestern Ontario border city. Police say officers responded to reports of gunfire just before 1 a.m. Friday. According to authorities, 2 other people are being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Sarnia police are calling the incident an ongoing homicide investigation. No one is in custody at this time, they said, and that officers are expected to be at the scene for an extended period. The campus will be closed on Friday, according to a social media post by the school, along with all classes and on-campus activities. We ask our students and community to avoid campus, it stated. The safety of our students, employees, and guests is our highest priority. We are working closely with the Sarnia Police Service as they investigate. This is a shocking and saddening event for our community. And that is all the CBC has at this time. Let's go to the Sarnia Observer, because that was the one we saw, and that's local, so maybe they will have more here. Said officers responded to a report of gunfire at a campus bar at about 12:50 a.m. and found 3 people were injured, including a 20-year-old Sarnia man who was taken to Blue Water Health, where he died. Police said in a news release. 2 other people had non-life-threatening injuries. Victim's identity has not been released by the police. The incident took place during a student administrative council event on the college's main campus, and emergency services responded immediately, the college said. Sarnia police said investigators are expected to be at the scene for an extended period. The college said Friday's closing includes the college's fire schools, skilled trades training center, early on child and family center, and community employment services, as well as its main campus building. Quote, "We ask our students and community to avoid campus," the college said. Police in the college said additional information would be shared with the community when it becomes available. And that was with some information from Paul Morden from the Sarnia Observer here. Oh, wow. That is terrible news. Well, geez, it seems that Marilyn Gladu was going to be in the news one way or another this weekend if it wasn't floor crossing. Just again, getting her comment about of something of the like. Oh, man. Wow. Okay. So here I have for you, kids and cubs, last night at the Liberal Convention. Marilyn Gladu speaking, being introduced by Evan Salt, and then we'll get back to some of the things here. Whoops. Let's try that again. Won't forget that I'm at the parts where we're talking about stuff not necessarily being the best for Pierre Poilièvre.
Merci, Sachit. Bonsoir tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir d'être ici au Montréal.
Good evening, everyone, and it's a great pleasure to be here in Montreal.
Can we give another hand for our president who has built this party the strongest it's ever been? Well done. You can't do it without you. You know, we talk a lot about building this country together. We talk a lot about bâtir ensemble. We talk a lot about unifying this country. But you really have to do it. You have to show it, one person at a time. And to do that, you've genuinely got to welcome people into our great party, into our tent, into this mission to build together. And that is why I know we will give the warmest bienvenue, the warmest welcome to our newest team member who wants to join and fight and be on our mission together. A warm welcome, please, for Marilyn Gladu.
Bonsoir Montréal et bonsoir chers libéraux.
All right. Before she gets into that, Kits and Cubs, just wanted to bring you a couple notes because when Evan Solomon said going into there that the party was in the best shape it had been in a long time, just prior to him, the party president was speaking and mentioned that the party had picked up greater than 300,000 new members since the departure of Justin Trudeau. They had knocked or called more than 11 million times, so more 11 million knocks or calls. Had tens of thousands of volunteers join the party and held over 100 rallies from coast to coast to coast. They gathered greater than 8.6 million votes, the most votes of any party ever in an election campaign, and the reason for which Pierre is always obligated to keep on polishing that shiny medal, saying we've got more votes than the Conservatives have ever got before. Yes, in an election in which the winning party got more votes than any other party ever before. So, Pierre never mentions that part. And mentions also that the campaign debt has fully been paid off after a record-breaking fundraising year for the party, claiming the party, quote, has never been in a stronger financial position. So there you go. Marilyn Gladu, of course, and then we talk to her. She talks to them. And the thought that I sort of was opened a while ago, but I'm not sure if I actually completed when I was talking about this pundit when they were asking the why now, why are the Liberals letting her in? And again, when I was talking about the diversity of all the candidates, because she is allegedly seen as a social conservative, right? And the Conservatives may have been believing that we do not have to monitor everybody in the party because those who have best social conservative views are clearly on our side and would never leave, right? They're not right about that anymore. The amount of damage strategically that does to a party is worth taking the hit the risk manager has calculated of people asking, oh my word, don't you have any principles anymore? And since Carney was ready with no, we didn't lower our standards to let them in. They had to meet our standards to be allowed in. They had to agree to our standards. Those two things together makes the, oh my God, don't you have any principles things just go away. So not only did he calculate the risk, he had a contingency ready. Boom, to slide in, knowing that that question would be asked and that framing was coming. And it was very elegant and very eloquent. And it makes sense. So he handled this very well. So, but somebody was saying, yeah, if you're bringing the social conservative in, the amount of damage it does to the Conservative Party, because now nobody's safe. But if everybody can see, right? You got this juxtaposition at the moment where the Conservatives have really gone full purity test. The way that they've abandoned uh, Tim Houston and Doug Ford and, all that kind of stuff. You're not real conservatives. They had these fights all the times that they went onto the media and said, well, if they're going to vote that way, there's a problem with them. Marilyn Gladu or something like that. I think it was Lisa Raitt that was on a chat, on a thing, describing Mark Carney as the Pied Piper walking through the Canadian politics, with the flute and, attracting everybody to his party. And says, but don't forget that the people that those he attract were rats. Oh, okay, Lisa. Not going to say that you just directly suggested that the person that's been a member of your party for 10 years and won 4 elections under your banner is suddenly a rat, rather than wondering aloud, why is it that 4 people, and now even social conservatives, are leaving our party? What is it about our party? Is it us, maybe? Maybe suggesting that the person leaving is a rat. You had Garnet Genuous grabbing moments of things, at least that Marilyn Gladu said in the past, putting them out there, right? Like they've done with the other 3. You got Pierre Poilièvre going out there. Mark Carney is trying to organize or seize a majority doing backroom deals. Again, girl, we all saw how you got your seat. And you've also said that every single time. I mean, keep that one warm. You're going to be using it a lot, considering that there's about 9 others that might be wanting to jump, either before the by-election or once the by-election confirms that there's a majority. These ways of trying to frame this when you don't have a leg to stand on, right? It's not helpful. And number 2, this is now the 4th time you call it a dirty backroom deal, or that you grab former quotes and say, oh my God, they're saying the opposite thing that they said then. How can you trust everybody? And that they betrayed the party and that they're rats, whatnot, and they're still leaving. Perhaps you might want to consider that strategy is not working out for you. Perhaps you might even want to consider that strategy, every time it happens, makes the case, gives the next one a little bit of a nudge. Now, maybe you're okay with that. We had Lisa Raitt now twice out on the media saying, listen, if you want to go, stop dragging it out. Just all go now. Well, yeah, that would be easier for you. It would just be a couple of days story, and then you could sort of move on. But maybe that's what the Conservatives wanted. Maybe they wanted all of them to just purge themselves out. They wanted them all to self-deport. And then they would have their pure party. So you had a party, despite the fact that they lost the last election, the leader lost the seat, was still acting like they had the luxury of telling people, no, you can't sit with us. You're not good enough. You're not pure enough to sit with us. And you have Mark Carney, after Pierre Poilièvre loses his seat, allows him to go have the by-election right away. Doesn't stand in his way. Yeah, Mark Carney, who opened a tent out to Chris D'Entremont, to Matt Genereux, to Michael Ma, to Laurie Idlout, to Dali Begum. And now even Marilyn Gladu. That's one hell of a juxtaposition when you're talking about like a national let's all roll in the same direction moment. Prime Minister said something also about being able, or maybe it was another MP, but maybe it was the Prime Minister. You don't have to have uniformity to have unity. We don't all have to agree on everything, which is kind of funny because that kind of bolsters sort of the NDP line and the Wab Canoe line on their end, right? We don't have to agree on absolutely everything to take action on the things that we do agree on and be really effective at it. Let's not let the things that we don't agree on right now stop us from doing the things we do agree on right now. Since we all generally believe in the same things, we could spend a lot of time focusing on the thing that's a hiccup here, or just saying, you know what? Okay, we recognize there's a hiccup here. Let's do what we agree on either this or something else instead. Right? We only have so much attention and only so much we can do in a day. We can use it focusing our time on what we don't agree on or focusing our time on what we do agree on. It's not like there isn't plenty of stuff to get done that we agree on. So let's just do that. Right? Got to be practical about certain things, particularly when you're in a mood where things need to get done, be done quickly. There is a existential sort of heartbeat out there that you got to pivot. Being grateful for every mistake they make down there, well, that buys us a little more time. But we got a lot to do, and we got to do it fast. So yeah, let's take a look here at Miss Gladu and what it is that she has.
Je suis tellement heureuse d'être ici avec vous à Montréal en ce moment crucial pour notre pays. Good evening, all. It's a critical moment for Canada. We have challenges, but we have opportunities to build a stronger country than anyone can take away from us. I've watched the Prime Minister and all the things he's doing since he's been elected, the things he's driving forward, fast-tracking, building, nation-building projects, diversifying our trade, strengthening our defense, combating crime, and building more homes. These are the priorities that meet this moment for our country. These are the priorities that my constituents want, that Canadians share, and that the Mark Carney Liberal team is delivering on. This is a moment for us to unite as Canadians, to do the work to build the nation in response to unjustified US tariffs. That takes serious leadership and a credible plan. And I know that Prime Minister Mark Carney brings both. And I'm ready to put my talents and experience towards the task as your newest Liberal MP. This is how we will succeed together. Whether it's loggers in British Columbia, oil and gas workers in Alberta, canola oil farmers in Saskatchewan, or petrochemical workers in my own riding of Sarnia, Lambton, Bikeshwanong. Everyone is counting on real leadership and a real plan to build our economy strong. That's what we're here to deliver. For those of you who don't know me, I left a career as a chemical engineer, working globally in hundreds of facilities in over 30 countries in sectors like automotive, plastics, building and construction, pharmaceuticals, nuclear, mining, petrochemicals, and renewable energy. I came to serve this country. I was the first female engineer in the House of Commons when I was elected in 2015, and I'm so glad to see more join. Shout out to Seema Akan. En tant que parlementaire d'expérience, j'ai été élue à 4 reprises.
As a parliamentarian of experience, I had been elected 4 times. I'm sorry, I thought I had pressed the pause button, but I pressed the back button. So I'm going to have to back this up a little bit here, kids and cubs. And hold on, let me see if I can remove this from the screen for a moment and cue it back up to where it was. And make sure that we get back to the same spot. But yes, she moved to French, and I wasn't ready for it because I was posting some comments. All right, just waiting for her to catch up to where she was because I rewinded it a little bit, and then I will come back and we'll let you know what she said in French. Okay, so now she's back there. She says, as a parliamentarian of experience, I have been elected 4 times, and I am one of 50 MPs in history that have had 2 private members' bills adopted and passed in Parliament, one having to do with, palliative care, uh, in Canada, and the other seeking to protect the pensions of, Canadian workers in the case of, corporate bankruptcy. These, bills were presented in order to create a country in which we take care of one another. All right. And then she goes back to English. So I will just put the counter here. And there you go. So, yeah. Uh, Interesting that when we're talking about her, she has had, unlike Pierre, who actually wrote one bill and did get it passed out of all the bills he's ever tried, and there wasn't very many before at least becoming leader, when that was um, the allegedly fair Elections Act, which nothing exists of it anymore. She has actually written and had 2 private members' bills passed, and on improving or increasing access to palliative care, and on protecting workers' pensions. Um, Sounds like maybe she isn't as horrible as one might think. There's she might be more moderate than people might have given her credit for based on certain votes that had her pegged as a social conservative. Those are just 2 very interesting private members' bills to mention, to have worked on, if one was that much of a social conservative. All right, let's get back to it, kits and cubs.
I know how to look past the usual politics, to step up for the constituents who elected me as part of this strong new team in government. We have a prime minister who has demonstrated his global experience and his proven ability to negotiate, prioritize, and mobilize. He's building a big tent coalition with Canadians who want to step up and build a stronger, more independent, more competitive economy. I look forward to serving on this team at this pivotal time for this bright future. Merci beaucoup, Montréal, Miigwech, and thanks to all of you.
So there you have it, kits and cubs. Marilyn Gladu at the Liberal Convention, having her moment, and yeah, rubbing a little salt into the conservative wound. That yes, even the ones you thought you had in the bag may not be as in the bag as you thought they were. Watch your back, Pierre. Oh man, I tell you, politics, it's brutal, man. Really, really brutal. All right. Let's see if I can find that moment, that scrum that Marilyn Gladu was there, where she was handling some of these other issues a little bit more head on. Let's see if I can find it. There we go. There you go. And here she is, kits and cubs, the newest member of the Liberal Party in her first scrum post, having crossed the floor.
Hello, good evening, bonsoir. I'm super excited to be here at my first Liberal convention, feeling the energy in the room, watching a whole 5,000 people that are here that want to build Canada strong. I am so proud to be part of the Prime Minister's new government and to advance the priorities that he has been fast-tracking. Nation-building projects, diversifying our trade, combating crime, building the homes, bolstering our defense, all of the things that Canadians want, all of the things that my constituents want. And so I'm pleased to be here. I'm looking forward to working together with the team to build Canada strong. I'd be happy to Absolument.
So a journalist asked, are you pro-choice?
Le Premier ministre, il a dit que je vais voter avec le gouvernement.
Absolutely. The Prime Minister said, I'm going to vote with the government.
C'est vrai et je vais protéger tous les droits des femmes.
And I'm going to protect all women's rights.
Oui.
Yes, I'm pro-choice. Yes.
Suddenly changed from being pro-life for years to pro-choice?
Pour les femmes.
No, in English.
Okay, sorry. So for people in Canada, I have been consistent when I said that women need to have the right to choose. I obviously have my long faith traditions, but I'm ready to support the rights of women in this country.
But when you ran
Next
with
question.
Allez-vous mettre votre siège en jeu pour respecter la volonté de vos électeurs?
Asked if she's willing to put her seat on the line to respect the will of her electors. Of course, that context for that is that she is on the record very recently, I think in January, as having stated that she believed that floor crossers should stand for a by-election at the time where the Conservatives had lost yet another one to the Liberals.
Absolument. J'ai entendu dire mes citoyens qui ont dit on a besoin d'un chef qui peut adresser les tarifs pas justifiés des Américains.
Said absolutely, and I've been listening to my constituents when they were telling me, we need a leader that can deal with these undeserved tariffs coming from the United States.
Parce que ma circonscription est à la frontière avec les États-Unis. Il y a beaucoup de commerce là.
And because my riding borders with the United States, there is a lot of trade being done.
Et on était très affectés par les tarifs.
And we were very affected by tariffs.
53% of your constituents thought that leader was Pierre Poilièvre. Why don't you think he is that leader?
Well, what I heard starting even after the election was that people, they were upset that Pierre lost his riding, lost the election. They were not confident that he could regain that. And they started to say, I really like this Mark Carney guy. I like what he's saying. Do you think he'll do what he says he's going to do? And I said, time will tell. Here we are. We're starting to see all the projects he said he was going to start and get created. He's buying F-35s. He's working on, bills to combat crime. So people, even long-term Conservative supporters in my riding have said, we really think that he's the guy from the moment. So
Vous avez passé 10 ans à critiquer les libéraux et là, du jour au lendemain, vous en êtes une.
Oui.
Comment est-ce que les gens peuvent croire que cette conversion, elle est réelle?
You spent 10 years criticizing the Liberals, and then, one day you are one. How can people essentially, how can people consider you credible?
Oui, absolument. C'était la première conversation avec le Premier ministre. J'ai dit quelque chose de mauvais, vous et le Parti libéral, il y a 10 ans. Et il a dit, je veux concentrer à l'avenir.
She said, yes, that came up when I met with the Prime Minister. She said, I've said a lot of things about you over the last 10 years. The Prime Minister said, yes, but I want to focus on the future.
D'avoir une équipe qui peut construire une nation forte. Alors, je suis quelqu'un avec beaucoup d'expérience et je pense que le Premier ministre et moi, nous comprenons bien que
to have a team that will build Canada strong, and I have a lot of experience, and I think the Prime Minister and I understand
on va marcher à l'avenir.
understand well that we are going to be going forward.
Would you still be changing parties if the Liberal government was not on track to form a majority? Is this about opportunity?
This is actually the best thing for my riding, for the country, and for myself. If we think about Sarnia, Lambton, but Kejwanong, we were a bellwether riding for 52 years before I got elected. So that means that they always had the advantage of government support. And after 10 years and 4 elections, arguably even my strong Conservative supporters are saying to me, look, we like you. You've worked hard, but we really need to have that support. We need affordable housing. We have infrastructure needs in our riding.
But why not Madame Gladu, vous avez participé en 2017 à une manifestation contre l'avortement.
You took part in a protest in 2017 that was anti-abortion.
Et là, vous nous dites, je suis pro-choix.
And now you're telling us I am pro-choice.
Qu'est-ce qui a changé?
Non. J'étais à la manifestation pour mon projet de loi sur les soins palliatifs.
I was at the protest for my private member's bill on palliative care. Not sure what she said at the end. Has she moved on to another issue?
Sur les soins palliatifs à ce moment.
You're taking positions on a series of social issues that are at odds with the Liberals. Are you ready to take their lead on those now?
100% I agree with what the Prime Minister said. I will vote with the government. I will protect the rights and freedoms of women to choose, for people to be who they are and love who they love.
You said before that you would support that MPs across the floor, that they should run in a by-election. So when do you intend to resign your seat and run in a by-election or follow through on that?
Well, I also said that in order for that to happen, the Elections Act has to be changed. And the Elections Act has to be changed to make sure that people will have to either sit as independents or call a by-election. That law has not been changed. And so when it does, I would be happy to do that.
You know you could.
Did you ask the Prime Minister to get that law changed so that you could run in a by-election?
I've had many discussions with the Prime Minister, but what I'm hearing is from people that are saying, look, this is a critical moment for our country, and we need to get building those nation-building projects, and we need to diversify our trade. We need to address these tariffs that are unjustified in the U.S. And so I'm going to be working with the Prime Minister and the new Liberal team to address those things.
Do you still oppose a ban on conversion therapy? Do you still oppose a ban on conversion therapy?
I oppose conversion therapy. I always did. The first bill that came out had freedom of expression issues. Once they fixed that, it was the party I was with at the time that passed a unanimous consent motion to see that pass. So 100% of people are against conversion therapy, myself included.
I heard you in your speech right now. You seem to be saying your constituents voted for this and the Liberals. The first person we talked to yesterday in Sarnia couldn't believe it. They called you a turncoat. They couldn't believe what you had done. And you're telling us that they want this. I just don't buy it.
Well, all I can say is that I've been listening to my constituents since last summer, and this is what my constituents are saying. This is what they want, and certainly it's going to be good for the riding. We're going to receive the support we need. It's going to be good for the country. I have experience to help build it, and it's good for me personally as well. Thank you.
Are there other floor
All right, get some cups. So there you go. Marilyn Gladu handling her first scrum. Oops, we have some fuzzy beaver here. Let's make sure that we are back in style. There you go. Just a little pop. So yeah, there we go. Her convention moment and her scrum after being peppered pretty consistently with some of those questions. Overall, handled herself well. There is some you can tell that when there's a question that she doesn't really want, she'll give a short, sort of curt answer and then sort of turn her head to someone else to not have to deal with the follow-up here. So that there's a particular strategy there. But yeah, overall, seems to have some answers that can stand up here. There you go. Kit Linda going, she has put her seat on the line. The writing's not going to re-elect her if she runs again. Yeah, quite possibly, unless, she comes back with a certain amount of impressive enough wins for the writing. That is also possible here. But yeah, Kit Linda going, see, you can hear the libertarian in her views. Yeah, and that last question was kind of weird. See, the people in your writing after this, we went to Sarnia, and the first person we asked said you couldn't believe it. Oh my God! It's like, are you sure? Because I'm not buying it. Really, you ask, you go to a place, and just the first person you ask, that's what you take their answer, and that's what you run with. You don't believe somebody who's telling you about their own motivations for having done something over just the first person you ask who doesn't agree with the decision. Okay, sounds like a good way to go. Wouldn't want to get lost in a forest with you. Yes, she takes questions better than Poilièvre, at least. Yeah, that's true. Speaking about the guy, yeah, a couple of interesting articles with regard to him out. Again, we heard about the first one not too long ago, the one where he apparently decided that he was going to go to his team, his caucus and everyone, and say, do sort of an Elon Musk-ish thing, which again, right there, that should make the little signal in your brain go off. Yeah, let's do what Elon did. How about not? How about not? And people had a feeling that wasn't going to go over well. And then we have J.D. Bellavance on one of the Sunday programs stating that up to 10 MPs were looking to cross the floor. And according to something called the Deep Dive, Jonathan Wall, here there was a little more on that. Saying up to 10 members of Parliament are reportedly in discussions with Liberal delegates from Prime Minister Mark Carney's office about potential floor crossing, a move that could solidify the party's grip on power in the House of Commons. Sources indicate these talks target both Conservatives and NDP members, signaling a broader strategy to reshape the political landscape ahead of critical by-elections. And once again, I also note that Kit Hugh kind of mentioned to me in a conversation past that it seems like Mark Carney is building himself a sort of wartime cabinet, unity cabinet in that kind of sense. So we found out about that. And then there was a piece of news that I didn't talk about yesterday. But it did come up. I think it was in the Toronto Star. I'm going to take a look here and see if I can find it. Because I found it in the deep dive as well. I'm just not sure if it's the same article. See here. 40. The article was stating that there's 40 Conservative MPs that were believing that Pierre Poilièvre might end up costing them their seat. Now, one of the things we have to remember about the Conservative Party of Canada is the Conservative Party of Canada is the party of the Reform Act, which allows, I think it is 20% of caucus, if I'm not mistaken, to vote to have a leadership review or a leadership vote. So even though Pierre won a leadership vote recently, that was a delegated convention, his leadership woes are not necessarily over, because at any time, if about 29 members of this caucus decide that they've had enough and they want a leadership vote, they can do that to depose him. Well, up to 40 would be more than 29 now, would it? So according to the Toronto Star's Tana McCharles, who is the Ottawa Bureau Chief, Reza Patel, and Alex Ballingal as well, the Deputy Ottawa Bureau Chief, says up to 40 Conservative MPs are worried they could lose their seats if Pierre Poilièvre leads the party into the next election against Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney, two federal Conservative sources said after the party lost a fourth MP on Wednesday. Dissatisfaction and worries about their future under Poilièvre's leadership have many questioning whether or not a bolder move to spark change is required, with some MPs discussing whether to invoke caucus powers to force Poilièvre out, said one of the sources, something that Pierre Poilièvre will be very familiar with, given that that's the same processes he used to plunge a couple of knives between the shoulder blades of Aaron O'Toole, so that he could climb into the seat. Where it looks like he might be setting up to have the same thing done to him. It's the circle of political life, especially if you're a conservative and you blew a lead in a big election. All right. Yes. Several other federal Conservative caucus sources said they were not aware of any discussions about using powers MPs have under the Reform Act. That law says if 30% of a caucus, or 28 of Poilièvre's current 140-member caucus, sign the letter, it would force a secret caucus ballot that could oust a sitting leader. But a second source confirmed the first source's estimation that more than 36 MPs fear they cannot win re-election under Poilièvre. Quote, "That's real," said the second source, who, like the most interviewed for the story, declined to be identified in order to speak freely about caucus tensions. Quote, "People are looking at the polls and they're saying, you know what, I'm not going to win. This guy isn't able to change it around and he's not making the changes around him," said the second source. "It's just a matter of self-survival. Pierre's got to go," said the first source. So we're getting to the point where we're talking about people who might even like Pierre and saying, listen, guy, I love you, but I can't win with you. So sorry, I'm going to put me first and I'm pushing you overboard. Whether or not any MPs actually make a move against Poilièvre is unclear. Several MPs said at least there will be tough questions asked at a next Wednesday's caucus meeting, but what many observed is that the Conservatives are in a rut. A senior Liberal source who spoke on condition of anonymity said conversations are ongoing with 8 Conservative MPs about possibly crossing the floor. The Liberal declined to name them, but said they believed 2 or 3 of the conversations are advanced to the point where further defections could come during the Montreal Convention. Conservative MP Mike Dawson, one of the 3 MPs who told the Star they support Poilièvre, said the floor crossers' defections say more about political opportunism than anything about the leader. No, honey, they don't. 1 or 2 maybe. 4 with 8 to 10 potential more coming down the pike. And some that didn't see anybody right after one that nobody even saw coming or even considered possible just happened. That says something about the leader. I know you may want it to say something about the political opportunism of those jumping ship, but no, it says something about the leadership of the ship people are jumping away from. It just does. Quote, if there's any more that wants to go, I wish they'd just go and be done with it. A lot of people are saying that. Why? The slow drip, drip, drip of quiet quitting and increasingly mounting frustration getting you down. Ontario Conservative MPs are particularly worried about their chances of re-election, said a third source, a Tory MP, and they are closely tracking riding-level polling data online. That source questioned whether Poilièvre would survive, quote, "With so many worrying that they may lose their seat, he may not even get a shot at another election." A fourth Conservative insider said it was up to Poilièvre to reverse the political slide. Sarnia Lambton Bekejwanong MP Marilyn Gladu stunned her caucus colleagues by crossing to the government benches Wednesday. She is the 4th Conservative and 5th MP overall to defect to the Carney government, crossing one day before Liberals gather in Montreal for a policy convention. Quote, "It's such a shock," said a 5th Conservative who said Gladu endorsed Poilièvre for leader early on. A vocal critic of vaccine mandates, she was Poilièvre's civil liberties shadow minister. Her defection is frustrating, said the MPB, quote, "feeds a narrative that MPs can only do good things for their riding or their country if they join the government." Quote, "That's not true, number one, and it shouldn't be. Gladu's defection was all the more surprising because she is seen by her colleagues, in the words of one, quote, not as a center conservative, but more of a right-wing conservative. Still, some of Poilièvre's internal critics say they would never follow Gladu, preferring to write out Poilièvre's tenure and aim to rebuild the party. Quote, I don't want a party of crazies. We need to be a party that's viewed as reasonable and have good judgment. There has to be an alternative to Liberals because they will swing one day, and I don't want it to swing to what we have right now because it'd be no different than the US in some ways, said the second insider who spoke to the Star. Poilièvre reacted to Gladu's exit via statement on X by criticizing Carney for what he calls an undemocratic power play. Quote, Mark Carney seizing a costly Liberal majority that voters denied him and doing so through backroom deals. The leader, who still has his seat thanks to a backroom deal, said, citing Gladu's own words in January, that, quote, floor crossers should face voters in a by-election to give voters the final say. I could not agree more. She should do so. Said the guy that didn't respect the result of the election, that said, we're tired of you. Go home. Sure, Jan. That's what you believe. Sure. The question now is whether Pierre Poilièvre can keep his grip on a restive caucus despite his winning more than 87% support of party members. No, not party members, of delegates, mostly hand-chosen delegates, in the leadership review 2 months ago. Poilièvre's convention victory does not protect him forever, the fourth conservative said, adding, while the leader has changed his tone in public, internal shifts have not occurred. On the prospect of MPs triggering the Reform Act to oust Poilièvre, the source noted that winning elections keeps people disciplined while losing does not. The reason why things on the inside haven't changed is because he doesn't want to change. He's still trying to take the easy path. Maybe if I change this cosmetically or change my tone or put on aviator glasses. Okay, no aviator glasses. Take off the aviator glasses. Maybe if I wear tight t-shirts. No, not tight t-shirts. Maybe show up in a suit. Maybe if I dye my hair. No, not dye my hair. Let it go gray so I look like I'm, intelligent and I think. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the fact that he keeps on trying to be what he thinks the country needs him to be so that he get elected. Keeps on trying all these costumes and outfits and values and policies. It's there's just no consistency here. The man does not know who he is, or he knows who he is and knows that it's not sellable. But if you're always changing the stuff that's easy to change on the outside and you're not willing to make the changes on the inside, it's because you don't want to make the change. But you're hoping that you can trick people into believing that you have changed so that you can just go back to the regularly scheduled program. A sixth Conservative MP said they don't see anyone who could realistically replace Poilièvre and keep the party united. Quote, who do you think you can win with? The MP said, and if you can't answer that question, then shut the up. So there you go. With files from Robert Benzie and Ryan Tumulty as well to create this article. So yes, up to 40 Conservative MPs fear that Poilièvre will cost them their seats, say insiders. That is not a good situation to be in at all, especially as public opinion polling has definitely not been going your way for quite some time now. If we are looking at 338.com in the seat projection, Conservatives doing a little better, but still showing the apex for the Liberals 210 on March 22. They're back down to sort of 205, and the Conservatives, I guess nadir, is it? The low point was 105 on March 29th, and they're up to 108 now. But we're still looking at a nearly 100-seat win victory for the Liberals if something were to happen now, election-wise. With the Liberals gaining seats in British Columbia, gaining seats in Alberta, gaining seats in Saskatchewan, and I think gaining seats in Manitoba as well. And of course, the approval readings and all that kind of stuff not going well for Pierre. People considering him to be a drag on the party, and not really having gotten a bump from his leadership convention, with some people also noting that for Mark Carney, a lot of people are talking about the honeymoon, and that Mark Carney would not be in the honeymoon phase at the moment. That honeymoon phase happened a little earlier in his post-victory. I will hold up. Maybe I can bring it up to you here. Yeah, there it is. And it was relatively short-lived. Here's the poll. Hopefully, you see it here on your screen. Do you? Yes, there it is. Okay. This here is the majority win. This here was the honeymoon period. Right here, the summer of 2025, where the election took place in April. We got to about June 15th, and things were pretty much the same as post-election. And then the Liberals broke into a lead, showing that they would be a majority territory, picking up 192 seats, Conservatives 121. And then we got a little bit more of a reverting to the mean here, where the parties sort of got close together, as often will happen as you're getting into a period. And we got to around January 11th and January 18th, showing the Liberals with 153 seats and the Conservatives with 145, so even a thinner minority. And then something happened at the end of January, where the Liberals just started picking up seats. This is around the time that Pierre started making a big series of mistakes, I think, with if you remember that podcast he went on to, where he said something about the RCMP being pretty much in bag for the Liberals, and that Trudeau should probably be in jail, and that the RCMP was covering up Trudeau crimes. And then all the rest of the bad luck that's happened to him since the convention as well, being certified and just plummeting. But this here was the honeymoon. So this is something else. This is people having seen Mark Carney in action for a year, seeing for a year what Poilièvre has to offer, seeing whether or not he could change, and starting to make some decisions. Right. This is more than just a honeymoon here. So in the light of that, what's going on with Pierre Poilièvre, the multiple makeovers, the changing of campaign managers, the changing of the directors of communication, and none of it seems to be working for him here. But yeah, right here it says here also from Mr. Wall from the deep dive here. It says about Pierre being a drag. There we go. Further pressure mounts with the resignation of Poilièvre's communications director, Katie Merrifield, effective April 8th, 2026, replaced by Micah Green. With up to 10 more MPs reportedly in talks to defect to the Liberals, the Conservative Party's seat count, now at 140, could dwindle further. Party insiders also note that Poilièvre's recent request for critics MPs to justify their roles alienated key members, while polling data pegs him as a 15-point drag on the party's numbers. Today, according again to the deep dive, there is and here's the thing is on the political talk shows, it was about 2 or 3 days ago that I heard somebody ask the question, pretty much, is Poilièvre over and who's going to replace him and all that kind of stuff. And when the pundits start talking out loud that way about your career, there's usually not much you can do to save it from that point on. You're basically a dead politician walking. they're starting to ask those questions out loud from Poilièvre. So think about it. 18 months ago, we went for and even before that, because I mean, if you think about it, there was like a whole year of drumbeat on Trudeau, like, okay, we're done with him, we're tired. When's he going? When's he going? When's he going? When's he going? But Pierre Poilièvre, there's been the drumbeat of him, maybe until Mark Carney came along. Pierre Poilièvre, inevitable leader, eventual prime minister. To the guy who blew a 30-point lead. And okay, so when's he going? That's a pretty quick drop, according to Jonathan Wall. Unconfirmed reports are circulating that Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre plans to resign once Prime Minister Mark Carney secures a majority government, a development that follows a turbulent day for the Conservative Party marked by the defection of MP Marilyn Gladu to the Liberals and the resignation of Poilièvre's communications director Katie Merrifield. Gladu, representing Ontario, Sarnia, Lambton, Bequejoanong riding, crossed the floor to join Carney's Liberals caucus, pushing the party's seat count to 171, just one short of the 172 needed for a slim majority in the House of Commons. Where to go here? They were talking about the drag. Yes, again. Gladu's political history offers insight into her surprising shift. A four-time MP who won over 50% of the vote in her riding last spring, she has been a prominent social conservative, chairing the Status of Women Committee and serving as Shadow Minister for Civil Liberties. Yet past tensions, including her disqualification from the 2020 Conservative leadership race due to logistical barriers and her public criticism of Carney's first budget with a D grade, hint at underlying friction with her former party. Now, people might find that interesting but the thing is that D grade is still passing. It's barely passing, but it's passing. And the Conservatives were, my God, this is the worst thing ever. So I'm guessing the fact that she damned Carney with faint praise wasn't strong enough criticism. And she maybe got taken out to the Poilièvre woodshed. So yeah. Poilièvre, who Gladu endorsed in the 2022 leadership race, responded by referencing her earlier stance that floor crossers should face voters in a by-election, urging her to honor her word. Again, she said she believes that floor crossers should face voters in a by-election. She never said, if ever I become a floor crosser one day, I will run in a by-election. That would be honoring her word. No, if you meant to say she should put her money where her mouth is, or she should walk her talk, that would be something. So yeah, interesting. Rumors that the leader might be in jeopardy, and Robert Bentley of the Toronto Star. Talking about it, I believe it is on CTV's Power Play. So that was the polling data. Let's just get this one here to you. There we go. And let's bring on Mr. Benzie, and we can see this bit. Not sure where they...
Last week, my colleague Athia Raj in our Ottawa Bureau had an interesting story about how emails were sent to all of Poilièvre's shadow cabinet from his office, basically asking them to justify their existences, show their social media posts, show what interviews they've done, basically keeping them on their toes. There's nothing wrong with that when you're doing really well in the polls. I think that when you're doing well in the polls, you can get away with that stuff. When you're a drag on your ticket, and Mr. Poilièvre is, I spoke to some Tories last week who say he's a 15% percentage point drag on them, and they're worried about losing their seats. So when MPs start worrying about losing their seats because of the leader, that's when the leader is in jeopardy. And it doesn't matter. You can have the greatest ads in the world, Mike, but if the folks around you are out to get you, you're a goner. And Mr. Poilièvre knows this because he helped defenestrate the last leader, Aaron O'Toole. So he knows what could happen, and I think he's probably aware of that. Last week,
there you go, kids and cubs, probably aware of that. And if Pierre Poilièvre wants to move on his potentially next career, as a next Alex Jones or something like that on US TV, on Fox, or his own podcast, or on the speaking tour, not having to spend a few months taking knives out of his back. Might be the faster way for him to continue living on someone else's dime, because that's all he knows, right? But yeah, they are talking openly now about him being gone. How's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And even some people printing some stuff about rumors about Pierre potentially resigning. Now, Pierre, of course, is not talking that way at the moment. Of course, Pierre has been rather defiant when being asked about this and whether or not he's staying. He's definitely not at all giving any indication that he is worried about that kind of stuff, which is expected, right? That's what you would expect of the leader of a party. You do not want to even open the door to the fact that you might be having doubts, right? That doesn't serve you well at all, and it just invites questions that are uncomfortable. But yes, Pierre definitely be much more defiant. Sorry if I'm not able to. I was looking for a particular story that I had just seen about that, and wanted to bring you that here. But yes, taking the position. My God, I'm having trouble typing today. There you go. Poilièvre. And some editorials as well, out there calling for him to be replaced as well, which is not helping him. So yeah, he might be seeing the writing on the wall here. But according to the Toronto Star here, a day after the shock exit of one of his MPs, Pierre Poilièvre dismissed questions about his future at Conservative helm and said voters should be able to force by-elections when members of Parliament cross the floor of the House of Commons. When asked Thursday how many MPs he would have to lose to Mark Carney's Liberals before reflecting on his grip on his caucus, Poilièvre instead touted the Conservative gains won under his leadership. So he went back to shining that silver medal. That reflection comes from the record-smashing 8.3 million Canadians who voted Conservative in the last election and the 87% of grassroots Conservatives who backed up my leadership less than 90 days ago to fight for an affordable, safe, and strong Canada, Poilièvre told reporters at a news conference in Richmond, BC. Our mandate and my leadership does not come from dirty backroom deals, said Poilièvre, referring to his oft-used phrasing for Carney's inability to lure MPs away. Praising for Carney's ability to lure MPs away from the opposition benches and into his own tent. Oh, my dear darling. 8.3 million Canadians in an election that you lost. At least you didn't mention your by-election, but you kind of referred to it obliquely by talking about backroom deals. And then, of course, your leadership campaign, which is not grassroots Conservatives. They were handpicked delegates. Okay. And then was talking about where his mandate comes from. It comes from the people of Canada. What this comes down to is who runs this country, who leads this country. Is it a bunch of backroom schemers and elites who rob people of their votes, or is it the hardworking common people who should be running the country in a democracy? Poilièvre's defense of his electoral record and his own leadership came after Sarnia Lambton Bekejwanong MP Marilyn Gladu blindsided her Conservative colleagues by defecting to the Liberals on Wednesday morning. She became the fourth Conservative MP to quit Poilièvre's caucus since November and the fifth MP to aid Carney's bid to tip his government into majority territory. The Star reported Thursday that more than 36 Tory MPs fear they could lose their seats if Poilièvre leads the Conservatives into the next election. Several sources questioned whether their leader should remain at the party's helm, wondered if internal party measures to oust him should be triggered, and felt that despite his success in shifting his tone and messaging in recent months, those changes have not been reflected in his dealings with his own MPs. But Gladu's defection, considered the most surprising of the recent Conservative crossings due to her particularly right-leaning views and her one-time bid for the party's leadership, also prompted open support for Poilièvre from his caucus, with several MPs stating they backed their leader and would never betray their party. Sure, you would never betray your party. Poilièvre delivered his Thursday news conference backed by 11 MPs from BC and Ontario, mentioning each by name and praising their diverse areas of expertise. He was introduced by Haliburton Kawartha Lakes Brock MP Jamie Schmalley, who repeatedly applauded Poilièvre's record as an MP and party leader, saying Poilièvre's work has only just begun. Oh my God. Okay. Speaking about Gladu's defection publicly for the first time, Poilièvre said, quote, "Under my leadership, she had a massive increase in the Conservative vote in her riding. Gladu's share of the vote increased from 46% in 2021 election to 53% in 2025. Poilièvre also condemned the practice of floor crossing as undemocratic and said Carney's quest to expand his parliamentary power would, quote, reverse the election result in countless ridings, robbing people of their voice. The Conservative leader was asked about his decision to vote against an NDP private members bill in 2012 that would have required an MP to sit as an independent or face a by-election should they choose to swap party allegiances. At the time, almost all MPs aside from the New Democrats voted against the bill. Poilièvre, who had praised MP Leona Alislev when she crossed the floor from the Liberals to the Conservatives in 2018, suggested Thursday that his caucus and party would consider adopting a similar policy. Let's not also forget that Pierre Poilièvre had an option to make that law in 2006 when the Conservatives were passing their signature Accountability Act, which, looking back now on it, was kind of really ironic, considering that the election they won in order to pass the Accountability Act as first one was the same election to which they had to eventually plead guilty in court to having cheated with the in and out thing. Accountability. They cried about it so hard that nobody ever thought to think that they were being unaccountable while trying to win that election. But yeah. Indeed, here, Pierre Poilièvre twice had the opportunity. And now all of a sudden he's calling for it now. Everybody asked him to, but he wouldn't do it. Now that he's lost 4, he wants it. Oh, but does anybody have any principles anymore? Right, Pierre? You were for it when the floor crosses were coming your way. David Emerson, 2006, which is why it never made it into the Accountability Act. And Leona Alislev, whatever it is, that she crossed 2018. But in between 2006 and 2018, really right smack in the middle there in 2012, private members bill, NDP. Couldn't bring himself to do it. If that were to happen, however, it would only mean that the Conservative Party would back the policy in theory. Legislation would need to be passed to make the policy a reality. The New Democrats already have such a proposal baked into their policy book. Quote, "My personal opinion is that when a member of parliament goes back on the word that they made to their constituents and switches parties, that constituent shouldn't be able to petition to throw them out and have a by-election. That would put the people back in charge of our democracy," Poilièvre said. Yeah. That's something that you've just recently come to believe. And as we've stated on that show, that's a terrible, 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 terrible thing to do, because political parties are not there for your benefit necessarily. They are a handy way of organizing people and ideas and presenting a shortcut, but they are private organizations. And these private organizations are trying to convince you, the people, that these seats belong to the private organization once you've expressed yourself in an election, and don't belong to the actual individual that you have elected. And then keep on proposing other things like forcing them to resign their seat or to sit as an independent rather than jumping to another party, so that you, the constituent, can have less power and less voice in Parliament should an MP that you have placed your trust into decides that they need to do something like go to another party to represent your interests better. The political party wants you to consider that it is their seat, not yours, that you've entrusted it to them as a party, not to that person as a candidate. That if the party goes back on their word to you as a voter, that you should have no recourse by asking your MP to cross the floor or sit as an independent. It's not the way the system was designed to work. That's your seat. As a citizen, that's your seat. You get to decide who occupies it, and you get to tell the person who occupies it when you want them to jump ship. If the party for whom you voted is not doing right by you. That's your power. Those political parties that are running to the microphones, clutching their pearls and claiming that something terribly undemocratic is happening are asking you to hand them their power, hand them your power. Don't believe them. The MP serves you, not the party. Brings your voice to the party, not the party's voice to you. That's the way our system runs. Those seats do not belong to the political party. The political party is not a structure that exists to serve your interests. It exists to serve its own. It's a private organization. All right. So yeah, Pierre Poilièvre, defiant here, but the rumors in the background, if the Liberals do get that majority, especially if it leads to a flood of a couple of other MPs leaving, Pierre might resign. It might be a good idea if Pierre was thinking of the party first, for him to resign now so that the party doesn't first lose 9 or 10 MPs, which would put it in a much more dire situation in terms of having to rebuild. The quicker he resigns, the less damage to the party he leaves behind. But Pierre has not necessarily established a reputation for being someone who puts the needs and considerations of others ahead of his own. Now, has he? So I would not... I would not put a lot of stock into that happening. A couple of editorial positions that have come out with regard to this. I am probably over time, but this is just too good. I like it. The implosion is always, well, yeah, as I say, as you know, and cups. I live for the awkward moment. Therefore, when things don't, when good things happen to good people, I'm very happy, and when bad things happen to bad people, I am fairly happy. Let's put it that way. According to Andrew Phillips, staff columnist of the Toronto Star, it seems there's a cross-party freakout over the fact that Conservative MP Marilyn Gladu has crossed the floor of Commons to join the Carney caucus. Conservatives are outraged that Gladu would turn her back on the party under whose banner she was elected no fewer than 4 times, and Prime Minister Mark Carney is coming under fire, including from some on the progressive end of the Liberal spectrum, for welcoming an unabashed social conservative to his ranks. Both critiques obviously have a point, but only one really hits home. The critique that bites is the first one, from conservatives who can't get their heads around the fact that the latest defector is Gladu, given her past positions on controversial issues and her recent attacks on the Liberals. She seems to make no sense as a member of Carney's team. Gladu once supported allowing private members' bills to advance anti-abortion proposals. She opposed the Trudeau Liberals' bill banning so-called conversion therapy and opposed vaccine mandates during the pandemic. Her own party leader at the time, Erin O'Toole, rebuked her for that. And she didn't leave her anti-Liberal views in the distant past. As recently as February, she was on her feet in the Commons accusing the Liberals of, quote, destroying Canada's immigration system. Just last month, she criticized the Liberal government's use of the Emergencies Act, saying, quote, violating our charter rights has become normal to them. Gladu is, in short, one of the least likely converts to the Liberal cause you could imagine, but that's between herself, her conscience, and her constituents. They're the ones who'll pass judgment if she runs again. They'll have to decide if they swallow Gladu's statement about backing Carney because Canada needs, quote, serious leadership at a crucial moment, or believe she has more cynical motives. But the other critique, the one that suggests that Carney Liberals have abandoned their principles by accepting Gladu into their ranks, falls flat. Why? Because there's zero evidence that the government or Liberal Party have massaged their policies or values to get Gladu on board. On the contrary, Carney made that explicit on Thursday, quote, the values of the Liberal Party have not changed, he told journalists. More specifically, he went on, the party continues to support a woman's right to choose, charter rights in general, and LGBTQ rights in particular. Carney said he talked all this over with Gladu and, quote, she will vote with the government on such issues. Even without that statement, I don't think Carney needs to feel defensive about bringing in another MP at this moment in our history. Gladu is just one of 171 Liberal MPs, and with 3 by-elections scheduled for Monday, she'll soon almost certainly be one of 173 or 174, depending how things go in Terrebonne riding. Even if she sticks to her views on abortion, etc., she'll have no impact on policy unless the government moves in her direction. And again, there's no sign of anything like that. In the unlikely event Gladu doesn't toe her new party's line on some issues, that wouldn't be the end of the world either. It wasn't all that long ago that the Liberal caucus included some MPs with socially conservative views on abortion, same-sex marriage, and such. Those were considered issues of conscience. It was only in 2014 that Justin Trudeau decided supporting abortion rights was a condition of being a Liberal candidate. But regardless, the issue isn't coming back. Carney has slammed the door on it, and Poilièvre has repeatedly promised the Conservatives won't revisit it. Wherever Gladu sits in the Commons, the issue is settled. The bigger picture is that MPs from both the right, Gladu, and the other 3 Conservative defectors, and the left, Laurie Idlout for the NDP, find Carney's focus on nation building and his broad popularity attractive enough to lure them across the floor. There's always the possibility of future unrest in Liberal ranks if those who think of themselves as progressives become discontented with this move to the center-right. But for Carney, that's a very acceptable risk, especially when you compare his position to that of Poilièvre, whose caucus, according to reporting by Tondo McCharles, Reza Patel, and Alex Balignol in the Star's Ottawa Bureau, includes as many as 40 MPs who worry they can't get re-elected while he's leader. The bottom line, Carney has no apologies to make for winning over yet another MP, even Marilyn Gladu. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Let's see if I can get this one to come up for us. Kits and cubs. There's another one here. There we go. And this is from Eric Blais, a contributing columnist, also to the Toronto Star. A podcast can show you a side of someone, but a floor crossing tells you something deeper about the mood inside a caucus. When Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre sat down with Joe Rogan for a long, wide-ranging interview, even critics had to admit he came across differently. The usual edge wasn't there. No constant jabs at Prime Minister Mark Carney, even when Rogan gave him openings. Instead, he sounded measured, even respectful, like someone trying to project steadiness rather than a signature outrage. For a lot of people, it felt unfamiliar. Not so much the fondness for kettlebells, but the nice guy persona. This wasn't the same combative figure who rode a wave of frustration to the leadership only to see it stall out in a federal election that cost him both the vote and his own seat. The obvious read is that the loss changed him, and that a new campaign manager is helping him recalibrate, softening his tone, and come across as more prime ministerial. But it's also possible that what we saw in Rogan wasn't a change at all. Maybe that's who he's always been. It's an appealing idea. Political strategists love this kind of narrative because it gives voters a way to reconsider someone without feeling like they were wrong the first time. The harsher version was the performance. The podcast was the real person. People who've worked with him have hinted at this for years. Quote, he's not the dick people think he is. A conservative strategist told me recently in private, we are told he's more thoughtful and not nearly as sharp-edged as he appears during question period. If you believe that, then his appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience was a glimpse of him behind the curtain, not an anomaly. It revealed something more authentic. It suggests that the aggressive persona was an act to excite his base, and it suggests that the husband and father Anaïda Poilièvre told us about a few years ago is a massive ad campaign. In a massive ad campaign is the real Pierre. It's a neat explanation. But then there's Marilyn Gladu. The longtime Conservative MP didn't just break ranks on an issue. She left the party entirely and crossed the floor. She's now one of several opposition MPs to do so in recent months, including multiple Conservatives. And that matters more than any podcast appearance. You can shape your image for a few hours in a controlled setting. You can choose your tone, stories, and pacing. Political analysts have said that Poilièvre sought and extensively prepared for that interview. You think? However, what you can't really stage is how your own colleagues feel after working with you in and day out. That shows up in quieter ways, in caucus meetings, in hallway conversations, and in whether people stick around or start looking for the exit. Gladu isn't a newcomer or a protest candidate. She's been around for years and she knows the internal dynamics, and she still chose to leave. That says less about messaging and more about the environment under Poilièvre's leadership. That the tension at the center of Poilièvre's image right now. On one hand, there's the more approachable version, the guy who can sit for hours and talk policy, fitness, or big ideas without sounding like he's in attack mode. Or the other, there's what his own colleagues seem to be signaling through their actions. So which one is real? The honest answer is probably both. People, especially politicians, can operate very differently depending on the context. Someone can be personable in a studio and insufferable in a closed-door meeting. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. I've had bosses excel at both. But in the end, leadership isn't judged by how you come across in a long-form interview. It's defined by the version of you your team deals with every day. And then, since maybe it's time for Poilièvre to reconsider remaining. And it would appear to some reports enough that somebody would want to put in print that there are some rumors that Pierre Poilièvre's time is up. Let's see. There's another one over here. Hopefully I can get it for you as well. There we go. And this one just outright calls for him to be replaced. This is by Sandy White, co-founder of Foundation Health and North House Hotels, and previously an advisor to the Harper government, a weekly commentator on CGAD Montréal. It's like deja vu all over again. Yet another Conservative MP uncomfortable with the direction of the party or doubtful about its electoral prospects has decamped to the Liberals, the fourth floor crossing from the CPC in 6 months, with more MPs reportedly considering the move. Although the three departures smacked of opportunism with a side of dissatisfaction at the culture of the party under Pierre Poilièvre, the most recent defection speaks to a more concerning issue, the abandonment not only of the leader but of conservative ideology itself. This is a mistake in a country that remains desperate for course correction after more than a decade of liberal rule. If conservatives truly believe in conservative ideas, the answer is not to quit the Conservative Party, it is to fix it. That means confronting the obvious. Pierre Poilièvre's leadership is no longer sustainable, and he should be replaced by someone who can better appeal to Canadians. Boom. There you go. This is not about ideology. The problem is not that Poilièvre is too conservative or not conservative enough. The problem is that he has become politically untenable. The polls have been showing this since the last election, and erstwhile Conservative MPs are hammering the point home. Politicians tend to have two principal goals. The first is winning. The second is actually implementing the changes or policies they profess to champion once they win. These former Conservatives would appear to believe that the Liberals under Prime Minister Mark Carney offer some moderate technocratic substitute for conservatism they purportedly espouse. This is deeply misguided. The Liberals remain what they have long been, a big spending, announcement, and image-driven hypocritical party that talks fiscal discipline while expanding government, talks productivity while adding bureaucracy and regulation, and talks democratic values when it is convenient to them while growing ties with the likes of China and ignoring its abuses. And again, I find this criticism very interesting from people who are speaking for the Conservative Party, because this is the Conservative Party. It's been big spending under Mulroney and Harper, announcement and image-driven. Canada's new government, the Canada Economic Action Plan, signs all over the place. Hypocritical party that talks with fiscal discipline. The party ran on accountability in this first election that it won, and then had, as we mentioned before, had to plead guilty in court. Expanding talks fiscal discipline while expanding government. The Conservatives did the same thing again. Talks productivity while adding bureaucracy and regulation. Conservatives did the same thing too. Talks democratic values when it's convenient to them. Conservatives do that too. We just have it right here with the floor crossings. Pierre was against them, was for them, and now he's against them. While growing ties with the like of China and ignoring its abuses, the Conservatives signed us on to a 31-year deal. when conservatives say, I didn't leave the Conservative Party left me, we have conservatives here complaining about the Liberals being what the Conservatives were under Harper. And saying that that is not conservatism. And if you actually want some conservatism, you're not going to get it from Mark Carney. Okay. The party is not even a meaningful vehicle for conservative adjacent policy, as some progressive conservatives claim. The current iteration of the Liberals is, quote, at best a temporary imitation of an ersatz version of conservative language layered onto fundamentally liberal governing philosophy. If conservatives want conservative outcomes, fiscal restraint, regulatory reform, economic and productivity growth, energy development, innovation, and immigration reform, those ideas must come from a conservative government, which we have, even though it has a liberal brand. And that requires a conservative party that can win, which we have. They're just called the Liberal Party at the moment. There is nothing authentically or genuinely conservative about the Conservative Party of Canada in 2026. There just isn't. Right now, that is not the case, as Poilièvre's unpopularity has become a structural barrier. If this situation persists, the worst outcome would be a slow-motion fragmentation of the conservative movement. Yes, please. With more MPs drifting toward the Liberals and voters disengaging. Yes, please. Yet the rightward shift in our politics shows that Canadians want conservative ideas and policies, and the only party who can meaningfully deliver that is the party of the same name. Coming off a leadership race mere months ago where Pierre Poilièvre was reconfirmed as leader with commanding support, any move to replace him will prove challenging, and the caucus alone now retains the power to do this. Rather than leaving the party, Conservative MPs who want change should find their spine and their principles and make the harder decision of pushing for a hopefully orderly end to Poilièvre's tenure. Their party and their country will thank them for it later. A change in leadership would give the Conservatives time to position themselves for the next election, likely to take place when the Liberals have been in power for nearly 15 years. Governments rarely survive that long without deep fatigue setting in, and even with some of Carney's more laudable moves, the Liberals are still struggling to improve the lives of Canadians. Replacing a leader is never easy, but in this case it means MPs showing some leadership themselves and acknowledging political reality before voters brutally impose it at the ballot box once again. Most importantly, it means understanding that the Conservative Party is bigger than any one leader. Conservatives do not need to become Liberals to remain relevant. They need a leader who can make conservatism electable. If they fail to act, they risk something worse than defeat, surrendering conservative ideas not to rival a party, but to irrelevance. And sir, may I add here personally that if you want a leader who can make conservatism electable, elect a leader that actually likes conservatism. That might help. The choice is not between Poilièvre and the Liberals. The choice is between a Conservative Party capable of winning and one that slowly fails while others define the country's direction. If Conservative MPs truly believe in conservative ideas, the path is clear. Don't cross the floor. Change the leader. Damn. The calls are coming from inside the house. All right, kids and cubs. That's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. It means the world to us, especially when you have a little word of your own saying it is why it is that our content resonates with you, because that is advertising that we just cannot buy. Kids and cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, you can scan these QR codes. This one here will bring you to our YouTube page where you can smash with our like, share, and of course, subscribe buttons if you're not on our YouTube page already when you're watching this, or if you are, but you have not clicked our buttons yet. Naughty, naughty. Here at the Beaver Lodge, you're naughty if you don't smash. Uh-huh. We're that kind of show. So please do. It helps us with the algorithm when you give us that type of little click. And remember, if you smash now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. And kids Elaine and Cassie will definitely look on approvingly. Now, Kits and Cubs, if you'd like to help us in other ways, let's say financially, because we do incur some costs to bring this show to you, and we would be very grateful for your support in the form of an enthusiastic expression of encouragement because you like what we do, you find it has value, and you believe that we should keep on doing this for a long, long, long time, and that a lot more people should see it. So if you believe that and would like to help us in our mission of spreading the beaver from coast to coast to coast, then we would love your help. Scanning that QR code will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And that is affectionately known as the Emergency Hydration Fund here at the Beaver Lodge, where you can contribute a few loonies and toonies to buy your favorite beaver a cup of hot chocolate or your favorite grizzly a mug of dark coffee, to say add a beaver and add a grizzly, and please do more of that. And we would be very grateful to sip that hot chocolate and cup of coffee and do exactly that, more of that. So thank you so much, Kits and Cubs, for all of your help and contributions. You can also contribute via our YouTube page through Super Chat donations and buying our memberships. There we get about 70% of your donation. If you go to our coffee page where we are set up for a one-time or recurring donation, we get about 95 to 97% of your donation. And if you are doing the Buy Canadian thing because you just don't want to give a cent to those USC tech bros, well, yay, we have you covered. A bank-to-bank transaction from your bank to ours using our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, will ensure that your transaction is 100% Canadian and that no money goes to the USCE Tech Bros. In fact, we get 100% of your donation. So your Beaver Buck gets has a little more bang to it. And we thank you for all the ways that you are able to contribute. Now, Kits and Cubs, if you're not able to contribute financially, please do not worry because the gifts of your attention and participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And we want to hear from you. And that same email address you can use to send a direct donation is the email address you can write to us to let us know what you think about the show or suggest some guests for the interview project. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Also, you can use our hashtags Kids Who Cook, Kids Who Craft, and Kids Who Cultivate to let us know what you're baking, what you're painting, if you have any musical creations, any artistic stuff that you are doing, or if you have some gardening tips for this start of the season for us. We want all of that. So please use the hashtags and let us know what you're doing. And of course, Kids and Cubs as well, send us your good news stories because sometimes we're doom scrolling and the day gets a little heavy, and being able to share in your joy is a wonderful thing for us. Again, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. That's our email address where you can send all of that. And if you're trying to reach us on our socials, at trueeager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge and on the Jitter, True North Eager Beaver at Facebook, our original home. We have the Beaver Bites Substack. We have the Damn Fam Discord, and we have the Damn Fam Instagram run by Kit Uncover. So lots of places that you can find us. And as well, right down here in the comment section, if you're listening on our YouTube page, we read everything that you write us, even though we're not able to respond to everyone. And please know that all of your contributions go back into the show to make it better because it is your show too. Because democracy is something that you do, Kids and Cubs, right now, if you're in the province of Quebec and if you are a member of the CAQ, please cast your vote for the next leader. We will find out who they are on the 12th. The 13th, Monday, is by-election day in Canada in University Rosedale, Scarborough Southwest, and Terrebonne. Please plan your vote and plan to have friends come vote with you, and then join us on that evening for a by-election returns show on Monday. We will have that. If you're in British Columbia, the leadership for the BC Conservative leadership is on. So please do what you need to do to either get by your membership so that you have an opportunity to vote. If that voting period is still open, if that period is still open, and I believe that the announcement of the results of that race are scheduled for sometime in May. Also, Kids and Cubs, if you are affected by the high-speed train project and have some comments to offer either on environmental issues or the path that it might take, or on any issues with regard to expropriation, you might want to participate in the public consultation at Alto Train. I'll definitely bring a little thing up for you here so that I can put it in the chat. altotrain.ca beaver.ca/en/public-consultation. And that goes on to the 24th of the month, where you can let them know what you think. There you go, kits and cubs. All right. Let's see. What else do we have? I guess it's time for words of wisdom. My words of wisdom. If you are gathering with family this weekend to celebrate Orthodox Easter, please, if you have a moment to disconnect, because the world is going a little crazy right now, and just fully focus on your family, this might be a good weekend to do that. And if you are not observing Orthodox Easter, but you do have some time planned with a family, either biological or chosen, good friends, all that good stuff. If you can't leave the cell phone at home, you might want to leave it in your purse, in your jacket pocket, or upside down on the table, so that it doesn't come and get your attention, and you have time to fully focus on your very special time with people that you love and people who love you. So there you go. Those are my words of wisdom. Kits and cubs, it could be a tough world out there. Please be kind to and gentle with yourselves. And we will see you again on Monday. Amour et bisous. And now we need some audience participation, kits and cubs. May I please have you say, at the count of 3, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Oh, yes. Oh, there's a few of you that are really happy that that the weekend is coming. Here's a little cock-a-doodle-doo just for you. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, kits and cubs. A little bit of Canadians who make us proud. Of course, Jeremy Hansen, who will be splashing back down to Earth. Some of the most important part and most dangerous parts of the mission still left to take place. Hoping that everything goes well for the crew, and we're thanking them for the wonderful juxtaposition that while things were going insane here on Earth, we had an opportunity for 10 days to look up to the skies and share some common humanity and share some wonder and see the best of us in action as some of the worst of us was being displayed here on Earth. So thank you for that moment. Prime Minister Mark Carney had an opportunity to speak with the crew the other day as well. Also, if we're talking about Canadians who make us proud, this from the world of business, but according to BNN Bloomberg, longtime BNN Bloomberg anchor Andrew Bell announced yesterday his decision to retire. The announcement comes following a remarkable career in journalism that has spanned 44 years, including 25 years with BNN Bloomberg. Bell's final broadcast will be on Thursday, April 30th. Quote, "The past 25 years have been the happiest of my life. I still can't believe I get paid to discuss fascinating topics with people who know infinitely more than me," said Bell. "It's been a wild ride, including the tech sell-off at the start of the century, the abyss of the global financial crisis, the shock when income trusts were torpedoed, and the current stunning advent of AI. I'm so grateful to our dedicated viewers and my talented colleagues, and though I've made the decision to say goodbye, I will continue to follow my beloved crude oil, copper, corn, and cobalt, and I'll have BNN Bloomberg running on the TV kitchen. Now it's on to pursuing my next goal, playing King Lear at Stratford. And Yvel has a pretty great sense of humor. Andrew's commitment to insightful business journalism has made an enduring impact on BNN, Bloomberg, and on audiences nationwide, said Richard Gray, VP News of Bell Media. His ability to bring clarity and depth to even the most complex financial stories has made him a trusted voice for Canadians. We thank him for his many contributions over the years and will spend the next few weeks celebrating his career. We wish Andrew the very best in his retirement. This goes on to say here, a native of Dublin, Ireland, Bell worked as an investment reporter and editor with the Globe and Mail prior to joining BNN Bloomberg in 2001. As the host of BNN Bloomberg's Commodities, Bell is a specialist on everything drilled, grown, and dug out of the ground. He is known for delivering straightforward, well-researched assessments on the trending stocks of the day and for taking audience through the detailed numbers while asking experts tough questions. He is an exceptionally good business reporter. I spent many years watching him pretty much nearly daily. Great sense of humor, seemed to be very much loved by a lot of his colleagues on air and over that period of time. You can't fake that. So congratulations to you, sir, on a most excellent career. And thank you for your service to the nation, helping us understand business stocks and bonds and macro and microeconomics a whole lot better. I know that I've gained a lot from you being an anchor, and it's helped me a lot in my own life. All right. The one other thing that I wanted to look at before we go is that fundraiser that I was talking to you yesterday, the Save Our Music fundraiser. I've got some good news. Number one, it has increased to $32,245. So they were able to raise another $2,000 since we were last on air. But it has been extended as we had hoped it would be. It says here, our goal was to raise the $250,871 by April 9th, 2026, so that students in these programs in SD 61 middle schools would continue to flourish. With the amazing support of our community and music lovers across the country, we raised $31,050 in less than 7 days. The district has confirmed that the $31,050 raised by the deadline will go to support middle school music for the 2026-2027 school year. But it says here, for those who missed the deadline, the fundraiser will be kept open for another week, and that money will continue to fund middle school music programs. We would like to give special thanks to Erica Sager, Paula Marchisi, and Karen Kwan. Without their support with providing guidance, media contacts, and motivating us to work. So when we looked last time, they had 309 supporters. They picked up another 21 supporters over the last few hours. So that is very good, and this will be open for a couple of more days, 7 more days, I think. So ends in 5 days. It says April 16th at 10 a.m. So if you can get the word out, something that I had hoped would happen, their level of success has made it such that the fundraiser can keep going for a little more. So that means there are more music programs in the area that could be saved, and more people can have access to this gift. So if you would like to support that and support these kids, this is an initiative that was done by middle school children in order to save their music programs. Incredibly, these are the types of initiatives as adults we need to support with our time and dollar, and let the kids know that they're on the right path. These are types of behaviors that we want to encourage in society. So the kids are all right, and it's up to us to give them a little backup here. So if you can support, if you can help, please do. All right, that's all I got for you today, kits and cubs. And with that, I say amour et bisous, and we will see you on Monday. Bye, everyone.